Hey everyone, Sebastian here. I'm just doing a last minute study session for everyone where we go over some practice questions. You can ask questions in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. So we're going to be using this website that has SAT practice questions together. And let's get started. So here it is. It's practice SAT Versal. It's going to have, I'm going to do a mix of reading and math. You can't do them together in one thing. So I'm going to do math on this screen, on this tab, and then I'm going to be doing reading and writing here. All levels of difficulty. Maybe I'll miss some, maybe I won't. We'll see. But let me know if you have questions as we go. Okay, we'll start with some math here. The Carbonen formula above shows the relationship between Alice's target heart rate H in beats per minute and the intensity level P of different activities. When P equals 0, Alice has a resting heart rate. When P equals 1, Alice has her maximum heart rate. It is recommended that P be between 0.5 and 0.85 for Alice when she trains. Which of the following inequalities describe got a cough lately. Which of the following inequalities describes Alice's target training heart rate? So basically we need to do 0.5 and then 0.85. And we're given the formula here. H equals 120p plus 60. So it can be 120. There it is. 120p, so 0.5 plus 60. So it could be 120 there, or 120 times 0.85 plus 60. That'd be 162. So that's be between 120 and 162. That's going to be A. Check. Oh, I got it. I'm on fire. Great. So this website is practicesatversal.app. I have used it with students. They don't pay me. I'm not associated with them at all, but they're great for just quick practice and keeping track of how you're doing. So then, good. Oh, I'm glad to see some people are here. Okay, let's try this one out. We'll do about half an hour of this, then we'll switch to reading and math on this one over here. So a company that provides whale watching tours takes groups of 21 people at a time. The company's revenue is $80 per adult and $60 per child. If the company's revenue for one group consisting of adults and children was $1,440, how many people in the group were children? All right, so we have two things going on. So we have 21 groups of 21. So we could do X plus Y equals 21. $80 per adult. So let's say 80 is the adult. So 80X plus 60Y equals 1440. This is a combination or systems of equations formula, and we see where they meet. It's 9 and 12. And remember, 12 is the students. So it should be 12 students. If it was asking for adults, it would be 9. Okay, easy peasy. I would recommend using Desmos for this because you could just plug in the equation and you don't have to worry about solving it because you could just look at where they meet. Also, if you have questions about this stuff or anything else, please put them in the comments and I'll try my best to see them and get back to you on it. Line K is defined by y equals 17/7 x plus 4. Line J is parallel to line K in the xy plane. What is the slope of line J? Okay, so we're looking for the slope of line J is parallel to it. So we don't have to plug it in here because it's just going to be the same as line K. So it's going to be 17/7. Check. On fire again. That one, why would you graph it? Because the formula gives it to you, right? At how many points do the graphs of the equations y equals x plus 20 and 8x intersect in the xy plane? Again, y graph, these are both linear equations and they're not parallel, so they have to meet at one point. You could check, but you really want to be confident enough to do that without having to check. All right, let's try this one here. So for the given linear function f, which table gives 3 values of x and the corresponding values of f of x? Okay. So we have 3 values of x and the corresponding values of f of x. So if f of x is 39, that means no matter what x is, y is always going to be 39. The only one that does that is b. So go with that. Okay, perfect. Now let's check this one out. The shaded region shown represents solutions to an inequality. Which ordered pair is a solution to this inequality? So it's basically just anything that's in the shaded region or on this line. So let's check 0, -4. That would just be down here. That doesn't work. 0, 4 doesn't work. -4, 0 doesn't work. 4, 0 works. Okay. So it's just checking the graph. Great. All right. Which of the following is an equation of the graph shown in the XY plane? Also, these are from last question, so let's not do that. Shown in the XY plane. Okay. So this one is kind of zoomed in. Let's see. So we have a -1 there is the y-intercept. And then we're going down 4 or down 1 over 4. So it should be -1/4. So that would be A. Great. Now the equation y equals 0.1x models the relationship between the number of different pieces of music a certain pianist sees. Hey, Manly Archive, glad you could join us. How many pieces did the pianist practice if the session lasted 30 minutes? So we just plug in 30, 0.1 times 30 is going to be 3. You should be able to do that mentally. Which value of P satisfies the equation 5P plus 180 equals 250? So we subtract 180. This one I'm going to write out. I don't like to graph these because then I have to look for it. This one you could do mentally, but I'll write it out for you all. So 5P equals, we subtract 180 from 250, 70, 5. So then that means P equals 70 divided by 5. And that's going to be 14. All right, this is an easy level question. It's not too bad. The function f defined by ft equals 14t plus 9 gives the estimated length in inches of a vine plant t months after Tavon purchased it. Which of the following is the best interpretation of 9 in this context? Okay. So this is a linear equation. 9 then is going to be the y-intercept. So it's not b because that'd be the slope. We'll keep the vine plant for 9 months. The vine plant is supposed to grow. The estimated length of the vine plant was 9 inches when Tavon purchased it. Exactly. And if you guys have questions on any topic you want me to cover, feel free to ask in the comments. A bakery sells trays of cookies. Each tray contains at least 50 cookies, but no more than 60. Which of the following could be the total number of cookies on 4 trays of cookies? So the minimum would be 4 times 50. So that's going to be 200. And then the maximum would be 4 times 60. That's going to be 240. So the answer has to be between 200 and 240. There should only be one option for that. And that is true. That's only B. Okay, great. Let's see. We should hopefully be getting some hard questions soon. Okay, the function f is defined by f of x equals 5x plus 8. For what value of x does f of x equals 58? So just solve for it, right? So 5x plus 8 equals 58. So 5x equals 50, x equals 10. Okay. I'm on fire, I'm on fire. Okay. Now let's try this one out. The function h is defined by hx equals x plus 200. What is the value of h50? So when they do this parentheses thing, that means that 50 goes in the place of x. So we'll put 50 in for x, it'll be 50 plus 200, we'll get 250. Great, linear equations in one variable. In the given equation, k is a constant. The equation has no solution. What is the value of k? Okay, so for this one, For it to have no solution, that means being that the slope, we could imagine this being the slope. This has to match up and these values have to not match up. So what you would say is 3kx equals 48 over 17. And we can trust that the other part won't line up. So then the x's cancel. 3k equals 48 over 17. K equals divided by 3, you're going to get 16 over 17, right? Exactly. So I'm not going to bother calculating that out because I can just put it as a fraction. Okay, now we got some percentage questions going. Which expression, the expression 0.35 represents the result of decreasing a positive quantity x by what percent? So this is going to be 35% of x. So we're decreasing it by 65%, right? So that's going to be D here. Great. All right, then we have the number A is 190% greater than the number B. The number B is 80% less than 24. What is the value of A? So 80% less than 24 means that it has to be 20% of 24. So that'll be 0.2 times 24. That's going to be 4.8. It's 190% greater. So that means it's going to be 2.9 of 4.8 because it's 1.9, which is 190% plus 1 times 4.8. I'm not going to calculate that on a paper. I'm just going to use Desmos here. So 2.9 times 4.8, it's going to be 13.92. All right, we'll do a few more minutes of this and then we'll switch to reading and writing. And don't forget, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on anything related to the SAT. I know it's coming up for you all, so I'm happy to help. An event planner is planning a party. It costs the event planner a one-time fee of $35 to rent the venue and $10.25 per attendee. The event planner has a budget of 300. What is the greatest number of attendees possible without exceeding the budget? Okay, so it's going to have to be less than 300, less than or equal to 300. $35 fee, 10.25. So 10.25x, we can plug that in here. We could also just solve algebraically, but this is fine. 10.25x plus 35 equals 300 or equals y. Okay, so then we go up to when y is 300. So we have about 25.87. So then its whole numbers would have to be, so it's going to be 25. All right. So now let's go on to some reading and writing here. For thousands of years, people in the Americas blank the bottle gourd, a large bitter fruit with a thick rind to make bottles, other types of containers, and even musical instruments. Oddly, there is no evidence that any type of bottle gourd is native to the Western Hemisphere. Either the fruit or its seeds must have somehow been carried from Asia or Africa. Okay. Which choice completes the text so it conforms to the standards? So we have to use, have used, having used, using. So it's a question about the verb. So here, people in the Americas, to use. No, so this is where you want an actual verb because we need a verb to make a sentence. So the only one here that's an actual verb is have used, be. Excuse me. The following text is adapted from Carol Capek's 1920 play RUR, Rossum's Universal Robots, translated by Paul Suver and Nigel Playfair in 1923. Fabry and Busman are telling Miss Laurie why their company manufactures robots. Fabry, one robot can replace 2.5 workmen. The human machine, Miss Laurie, was terribly imperfect and had to be removed sooner or later. Busman, it was too expensive. Fabry, it was not expensive. It no longer answers the requirements of modern engineering. Nature has no idea of keeping pace with modern labor. So what's going on here is was used in the text. What does the word answers most nearly mean, right? They underlined it for us. So we're going to have A explains, B rebuts, C defends, D fulfills. On these types of questions, I like to look at all answer choices first. And then, so they're not answering a question to the requirements of modern engineering. So it wouldn't be that. They're not rebutting something, and they're not defending something, right? They're fulfilling a purpose. So it should be D. Whew. All right. A pioneer in the field of taphonomy, the study of how organic remains become fossils, blank, may be just as relevant in the fossil record as those of thick-shelled organisms. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? So let's see. Fossils of thin-shelled organisms, Anna Berensmeyer demonstrated in 2005 analysis. B, Anna Berensmeyer demonstrated in 2005 analysis that fossils of thin-shelled organisms, it was demonstrated, and a 2005 analysis. Okay, so what's happening here is you have an introductory phrase, a pioneer in the field of taphonomy, and that has to be the first thing that comes up. So who could be the pioneer? A fossil can't be the pioneer. Anna Berensmeyer could be, so it should be B, but let's check the other one, C. It was demonstrated, no, a 2005 analysis. So it has to be B, Anna Berensmeyer. This is a big type of question that students miss. It's all about understanding what the introductory phrase is related to and making sure that comes immediately after the comma. In 2016, biological anthropologist Heather F. Smith and her team investigated the evolution of the appendix, an intestinal organ that is present in some mammals, including humans, but is generally thought to have no function. Studying 533 mammal species, the team found that the appendix has emerged independently across multiple lineages in separate instances and significantly hasn't disappeared after emerging in specific lineages. Moreover, the team determined that species with the organ tend to have higher concentrations of lymphoid tissues, which supports immune responses in the cecum, the organ the appendix is attached to. Therefore, the team hypothesized that the appendix likely blank. Which was most logically completes the text? A was once present in many non-mammal species, but has since disappeared from those lineages, has been preserved in certain mammal species because it benefits their immune systems, will emerge in a greater number of mammal species because it may have a necessary function in the immune system, produced higher concentrations of lymphoid tissues in mammals in the past than it does currently. So, moreover, the team determined that the species with the organ tend to have higher concentrations of lymphoid tissue, which supports immune responses in the cecum, the organ the appendix is attached to. So, on these types of questions, you want to focus on the ending more than anything. So, we're told that it normally doesn't seem to have an effect, the appendix, but here tend to have higher concentrations of the tissue. So the organ is attached to. So maybe the appendix is getting rid of that. Or moreover, the team determined the species with the organ tend to have higher. Okay. So it's giving lymphoid tissue. So it's going to produce higher in mammals than not in the past than it does currently because it benefits their immune system. So it's going to be B. Okay, great. So we're going to switch to math in a second after this one here. I do one thing. I know this is a tough one, but we're making progress. We're making good progress on this. Let's see. Okay. I know the test is coming up for people and they're stressed out, but it's not too bad. You take it now. If you're on here studying, then you're probably in a good place. And we'll get back to these questions in a second. If you have questions on how to study, this will stream for probably at least until 5:30 Eastern time. So for a couple hours at least. And you can come back, check in, check out. Yeah, it's going to be a marathon. I'll also be doing a marathon tomorrow. This one will be going until 6. Then I have to go to a student specifically, but I'm happy for you to join. So let's work on this together. Let's exercise our brains here. So to investigate potential cognitive benefits of taking leave from work, psychologist Jane Packer and colleagues conducted a 6-month study of Australian university staff members who took no leave from work during the study, took 2 to 4 days of leave, or took 1 to 5 weeks of leave. Tests of attentiveness were administered to participants 3 times during the study at random. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to help. At random for the no leave staff and for the rest 1 week before the leave, 1 week following the return to work, and 1 week after the second test administration. After analyzing the results, the researchers concluded that longer leave times might not confer a greater cognitive benefit than shorter leave times do. Which choice best describes data from support the researchers' conclusion? A, in the second test administration, participants who took 2 to 4 days of leave had higher average attentiveness scores than did those who took no leave. But in the third test administration, those who took no leave had higher average scores than those who took 1 to 5 weeks of leave. In the first test administration, participants who took 2 to 4 days of leave had lower average attentiveness scores than did those who took 1 to 5 weeks of leave and those who took no leave. In both the second and third test administrations, participants who took 2 to 4 days of leave had higher average attentiveness scores than the participants who took 1 to 5 weeks of leave. In the second and third test administration, participants who took 2 to 4 days of leave had higher average attentiveness scores than did those who took no leave. Okay, we got someone saying C. Let's check. So what is their conclusion? Might not confer greater than shorter leave times do. Yeah, that would make sense. I think C would make sense. Let's see why A is wrong. Participants took. So that one doesn't work because it's talking about no leave in the third one. That one doesn't work because that's not proving it. And the second had higher average. And that one doesn't work. Yeah, so it should be C. Exactly. You want to compare the conclusion to the data and make sure you're connecting it directly. All right, so we'll go back to this in a minute, but we're going to work on some math now. And if you guys want me to go over one topic more than the other, let me know, and I'll try to accommodate that. So the function f is defined by the given equation. For which of the following values of k does f of x equal 3k? So when does k equal 3k? And we have these values here. So honestly, what I would do is I would plug in. I would start by plugging in 59. So if I do 59, let's just use this beautiful Desmos here. Minus 259. If you guys have a different method, I'd love to hear it. So that just gets us 59. So that's when it's equal. That's not going to work. How about 59 over 2? That gets us 0. That's not going to work. 59 over 5. That gets us 35.4. Interesting. Let's see what this gets us here. 59 over 5 times 3, 35.4. Beautiful. So it's going to be A. So that's a handy trick, just plugging in using Desmos. It makes it quick. You could also graph it possibly and see, but that can be kind of tricky there. Okay, so now we have this here. If a new graph of 3 linear equations is created using the system of equations shown in the equation x plus 4y equals negative 16, how many solutions will the resulting system of 3 equations have? So we have those two, and then we're going to have, interesting. Okay. So we graphed x plus y, 4y equals negative 16. Let's see what that does. X plus 4y equals negative 16. I'm thinking it's 0, 2, actually. Yeah, because they'd have to, yeah, they'd have to both, all three cross at this point. So they don't do that. So it's going to be that. Exactly. Even though it crosses each of the other points once, the solution for all three is when all three meet at the same position. So nice job, Miss Hustle. You're nailing it. Table shows 3 values of x and the corresponding values of g of x, where gx equals f of x over x plus 3, and f is a linear function. What is the y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane? It's a lot of ways to do this, but let's see if we can do it with this. I'm honestly not great at just doing this, but let's see what we get. F is a linear function. This is g of x. What is the y-intercept of the graph? Also, by doing this, I mean plugging into the graph. So what do we got here? That's going to be it. We can get a regression value. Okay, that's not very helpful. So you got A for this. Okay. Y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x. So f of x is the top, and we're dividing by x plus 3. Okay. So when negative 9 Li equals 0. Interesting. So what we could say is f of negative 9 equals 0. And then what we could also say is f of negative 27 equals, if we plug in negative 27 for the bottom, right, we'd get negative 24. So it'd be negative 72. I don't think it's going to be harder than the other sections. And if it is harder than past tests, by the way, then it's going to be graded more steeply. So missing a question on a hard version of the SAT won't hurt as much as missing questions on an easy version. So this actually didn't help me, but what I can do is I can do negative 9, 0, negative 2, negative 27. And it should be plus 36 exactly. Man, you got that one quick. I'm usually faster, but right now I have to like talk as well and read. But yeah, for October, I wouldn't worry about it being harder than previous ones. If you've taken it before, I could see it being new questions that maybe you haven't seen. But if you haven't seen it, probably other people haven't seen it either. Go to the following tables are all the values of x and their corresponding values of y, solutions to the given inequality. Yeah, regressions are great to help with. So here, 2x minus y is greater than, okay. So 440, let's just graph this and see what we got. 2x minus y is greater than 883. So we have 441.5 is right there. So 440 would not be 0. 440 be there. Okay, so 440 has to be, let's see, -3. So it has to be greater than -3. That works for all of them. Then 441 has to be greater than -1. So it's not going to be A. Oh, wait up, actually. Hmm. 442. Let's see this. 440. Oh, these are 442. I misread this. See, this is what's happening to me. I'm losing my mind. Okay, so it could be this one, I think. 440 is -2. So when it's 440, it has to be greater than -2. 441 has to be, let's see, 441 is -1. So Y has to be below that. Oh, it has to be below. Yeah, I'll go over hard questions. So it has to be below -1. Oh my gosh. See, I've been misreading this whole thing. Yeah, so I'm okay. Let's see. Okay, so it has to be below. -440, -3. So 440 has to be less than -3. So it has to be one of those. Then 441 has to be below -1. And 442 has to be below. Okay, so it should be this one. Okay, great. That one really stumped me. Yeah, so my predictions will be, I think I made a video on that, huh? I don't know why it's not letting me go ahead. Let me refresh. Will be that there'll be a hard geometry question. Let's just do hard questions for now, actually, for the math. Okay. So we'll just do hard questions right now and get a sense. I'll predict that there'll be a pyramid question. That's usually one of the hard questions lately, where you'd find either the surface area of a pyramid with a square base or some sort of volume. Okay, so the graph of the equation ax plus ky equals 6. What is the value of k? Okay, so we basically have ak plus ky equals -6. So we could plug those in. So let's say instead of, we're going to have negative -2x plus, I think you're probably right that it's 2, but let me just check. -2x, so I'm making x into a, plus -6y equals 6. And then I'm going to do ky -3y equals 6. So then this one equals -2. We plug in -2 into that one, we're going to get -2x plus -6 times -2 equals 6. So I'm getting 3. Let's check. Maybe I messed up. Oh my gosh, it's -2. Oh, because it's asking for K. I messed up. This is my first mistake. I found A. So watch out for that, right? Remember to see what they're looking for. So you got 2, Miss Hustle. We both got it wrong. It should be -2. See? This is what happens when I'm not focusing. Let's erase these. Which expression is equivalent to 42a over k plus 42ak, where k is greater than 0? Okay, so you need to FOIL. You need to multiply both sides. Okay. So let's look at what's happening. Everything has k. This one doesn't have k. So the way this one works is you're going to do 42a over k. Now you want to make the other one over k as well by multiplying by k. So you're going to do 42a k squared. Exactly. It should be d. But I'm just going to show how this works. We combine and we factor out the 42a. So it'll be 42a over k. And now it's going to be k squared. This just becomes 1 when we factor. Plus k squared. And that's going to be d. Yeah, this is a tough one, but not too bad. Not one of the crazy hard ones. Just they labeled as hard, but it's not terrible. It's not like some of the other ones. What system of linear equations is represented by the lines shown? So you could plug these in and see. I'm not going to do that though. So we have these two. They don't have this here. So what would we do? What would we do? They both meet at 8 though. So x is 8. So when y is 0, x is 8. We could eliminate anything that doesn't do that. So when y is 0 here, x is 4, not it. When y is 0 here, x is 4, not it. When y is 0 here, x is 8, y is 0 here, x is 8 for the first equation. Now let's check the second equation. X is 8 for both of these. Now, do you notice the difference is one is negative, one is positive, and this one they switch up the signs. So what would it be? This one, you want them both to have a negative slope, which is when they both have the same signs on the same side. So it's going to be D. Okay, let me just move something on my laptop or on my PC. A window repair specialist charges $220 for the first 2 hours of repair plus an hourly fee for each additional hour. The total cost for 5 hours of repair is $400. Which function f gives the total cost in dollars for x hours of repair, where x is greater than or equal to 2? Okay, so this one's tricky because we have to account for the fact that the first 2 hours is 220. People will often just put plus 220, but for the first 2 hours, how much work are they going to do? So 5 hours, let's see, is going to be some value. So let's say 400 equals 5 times the m. Let's say plus 220 for now. For now, the 220, but it's going to go away. So 5m equals 180. But actually, you know what? Let's not do it that way. Let's do after only 3 hours, because it's not 5 hours, it's 3 hours, right? Because the first two are included in the 220. So 3m plus 220. So we'll subtract, we'll get 180 equals 3m. M equals 60. Okay, so we have two that are 60. But if we did B, that's going to throw us off. Exactly, it should be A. Nice job, Amna. Because the first 2 hours, you have to account for the 120 being gained. A lot of people would put B, but we don't want to put B. All right, let's see this one. Advanced math, nonlinear equations in one variable, and systems of equations in two variables. How many distinct real solutions does the equation given have? There's a lot of ways to do this, but we could just plug it in and see. It should be 2 equations, but let's find out. Let's move it over actually. So we'll do it plus, oh, you know, because it's +4, it's going to throw us off actually. Oh my gosh. See, I'm not as sharp when I'm doing it on live stream because I have to focus on other things. It should be 0. Because, and this makes sense, you don't even have to graph it. I don't know why I did that. Squareds are always going to be positive. So how are we ever going to get a -4? It's not going to happen. So now the solutions to the given systems of equations is xy. What is the value of 8x plus 7y? Do you see how there's 8x here, 7y here, 8x here, 7y here? You want to notice that pattern and just treat those like x and y. And you could just do 2x plus 4y equals 12. Negative 2x plus 4y equals 12. And then you get this here, you get 0, 3. Exactly, exactly. Good. Hector used a tool called an auger to remove corn from a storage bin at a constant rate. The bin contained 24,000 bushels of corn when Hector began to use the auger. This bin contained, after 5 hours of using the auger, 19,350 bushels of corn remained in the bin. If the auger continues to remove corn at this rate, what is the total number of hours Hector will have been using the auger? When 12,840 bushels. Okay, so let's find the rate by doing 24,000 okay. 24,000. I don't know why I'm putting a comma. Minus 19,350. And then we're going to divide by 5 hours. So it's a 930 rate. And now we're going to do something like this. Look, 24,000 minus 930x equals y. This looks too big. I don't love this. Okay, let's just do it algebraically then. Equals 12,840. So it's going to be 12 hours. So it should be D. Nice and easy. The issue with that one is sometimes people do 7 hours because they forget to count the first 5 hours. Okay, so here the table gives the coordinates of 2 points on a line in the xy plane. The y-intercept of the line is k minus 5b, where k and b are constants. What is the value of b? Okay. K, when x is k, y is 13. When it's 7, it's -15. So let's find the slope because it is a linear equation. Yeah, it's a line. So k plus 7 minus k on the bottom, -15 minus 13. So we're going to get -28/7 equals a slope of -4. Okay. Once we have the slope, k minus 5. So we're subtracting 5 from k here. So that's going to be, you could make an equation like this, right? So we're going to have, we'll do k minus the k minus 5 on the bottom. So k minus k minus 5 on the bottom over 13 minus b K, oh God, just equate it to K minus 5 equals 0. Let's see, equals -4. So on the bottom, they cancel out. So we're going to have 5 on the bottom, 13 minus B. Multiply, we're going to get 13 minus B equals -20. Negative B equals, I think you're right, Miss Hustle. -33, B equals 33, exactly. Perfect. So x squared minus 34x plus c in the given equation, c is a constant. The equation has no real solution if c is greater than n. What is the least possible value of that? So this is a quadratic with no real solution. So what you have to think about is, well, you could move things around on a graph, but I don't love to do that. I like to do the discriminant. So the discriminant comes from -b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac. It's the quadratic equation all over 2a. The discriminant is this part. So it has no real solutions. That means it has to be less than 0. So we're going to do b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. So b here is -34, so that doesn't really matter. It'll be 34 squared minus 4a is just 1, c is just c, is less than 0. Let's plug that in here. So 4c is going to equal 1156, and then we're going to divide by 4. 289. Okay, so is the difficulty level going to be similar to this or higher on Saturday? Well, I would say some of the questions are going to be harder than this, but not all of them. Most of them will be easier than this. I'm just doing the hard level right now. So these are just a hard level. There's definitely going to be easy level and medium level. So if you're just talking about the very end of module 2, this is going to be easier than maybe the last 3 questions of the hard module 2 math. But this is overall harder than the overall test because I'm not doing the easy and medium right now. Which of the following expressions is a factor of x plus 2b, where b is a constant integer? Oh, I love this one. So, yeah, we'll get to trig and geometry. I don't know why they're not popping up. They should be popping up. So we'll do x plus 2b. I'll do this one and then I'll switch it to that. Yeah, it probably is that. So I like to think about foiling here. The way I think about it with foiling is x plus 2b times something that has to give us the 3x plus, do you see how everything here is a 14b? It has to be plus 7. So those are going to be the factors of this. And then if you don't find this hard, you should do great on the test. The only reason you wouldn't do well then is if you make silly mistakes. And obviously the last few questions could maybe kill you from getting a perfect score. But even if you miss the last few questions on the hard module, it'll be still above a 750. And honestly, the difference between a 750 and a perfect score for colleges doesn't really matter. So you're going to get 3x squared plus 6bx plus 7x plus 14b. So basically 6bx plus 7x has to be a whole number. When we subtract 7x, then we have to get something that's a multiple of 6 because b is a whole number. So when you subtract 7x here, it's not going to work because it's a positive. That would give us 0. This gives us 21. 6 does not go into 21 evenly. This one gives us 35. It doesn't do it. Yeah, silly mistakes are killer, honestly. All right, so I'm gonna ask to do some trig and geometry. So let's do that. Again, this website I'm using, I didn't make it. I'm not associated with it, but it's helpful. You can just go in here, do practice rush, and they take questions. So let's do math. And then I'll switch to verbal again in a minute. I'm going to say select all skills, but then I'm going to get rid of this, and this. Let's do medium and hard just to give people some range. Honestly, the things that mimic hard module 2 questions the most are just doing the hard questions from the practice of the College Board, right? There's the free College Board question bank. That's been the best I've seen so far. In the figure sheet, sorry. In the figure shown, points Q, R, S, and T lie on the line segment PV and line segment RU. Intersects line segment SX at point W. The measure SQX, so SQX is 48 degrees. So let me write that here. Let me zoom in a bit too. Okay. Fix that. So SQX is 48. Oh, I don't want that sizing. It's disgusting. All right. So we're going to have 48. And then also I've done videos. My prediction videos are often doing hard questions. SXQ is going to be 86. 48 plus 86 is going to be 126, 134. So this is going to be 46. Okay, so what is the measure in degrees of TUR? So this is what I'm looking for. TUR, SWU is 85. That makes this angle here because of, interior angle theorem. I could do it by finding one, but this is going to be 134 because it's equal to the two angles in the triangle outside it. And then we're told VTU is 162. So that means this is 18. So we have 134 plus 18 plus 85 plus X, equals, it is a quadrilateral we have here, 360. So let's find that. So I'm going to do 360. I'm just going to subtract the three values from 360. Minus 134, minus 18, minus 85. So it should be 123, but that doesn't really make sense at all. SWU. Okay. VTU. Okay, it just doesn't look right, but let's see. Great. Okay, so see, that's a good example of where you should just trust the numbers, not try to use the image because they're not going to make them accurate for us. Continue. I found 18. Oh, I wish I could go back. Oh, wait, I can. I found it. I found 18 because this angle here was 162 and it's supplementary. So I did 180 minus 162. All right, let me zoom out. Point O is the center of the circle above, and the measure of OAB is 30 degrees. If the length of OC is 18, what is the length of arc AB? So AB is there. Length of OC, so that's going to be our radius, 18. Angle OAB is going to be 30 degrees. So to find that, you would do 30 out of 360, right? It's going to be that little piece. So it's going to be 1/12 of the circumference. Circumference is going to be 36 pi. Oh, wait. OAB, I was looking at it wrong. This is 30. This is 30. That's 120. So it's going to be 120. So we're going to have 1/3. So it's going to be 12 pi overall. So we have B there. Okay. I'm loving it. Okay. The circumference of the base of a right circular cylinder is 20 pi meters, and the height of the cylinder is 6 meters. What is the volume in cubic meters of the cylinder? Okay, volume in cubic meters of the cylinder. So circumference of the base is 20 pi. That means the radius is 10. So R equals 10. So that means the area is going to be 100 pi times 6. We should get 600 pi. All right, that's what I like to see. Okay, now here in the XY plane is the point 6C. It lies on the circle. What is the value of C? You could plug in. You could do this a lot of ways. This one's not bad at all. So x minus 3 squared. Oops. No, why am I putting it in here? See, my mind is just all over the place. Squared plus y minus 5 squared. And be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you can. That helps me a lot, be able to put these on. The more people I have viewing this, the more time I can dedicate to this and help you guys out all for free. The 0.6C lies on the circle. So when it's 6, 5. Okay, this one I'm definitely just going to plug in. What are the coordinates of the center of the circle? Y squared plus 16y equals -20. Let's zoom out here. Oh, they killed me with this. Okay, but if we look at our answer choices, right, it's somewhere around the -10 region. So it should be B, because -20 is too far out. It's not positive. If they had done values that were very close to each other, if it was not multiple choice, this wouldn't be enough. We'd have to calculate it algebraically using completing the square or something like that. But luckily, we wouldn't have to do that. Triangle has a base length of 56 centimeters and a height of 112 centimeters. What is the area? Okay, great. So we're just going to do half. So we'll do 1/2 times 56 times 112. 3,136. Pretty straightforward here. We're going to switch in about 8 minutes to verbal for people who want to work on that. Point F lies on a unit circle in the XY plane and has a coordinate 1, 0. Point G is on the center of the circle and has coordinates 0, 0. Point H also lies on the circle and has coordinates -1, y, where y is a constant. Which of the following could be the positive measure of the angle FGH in radians? So let's draw this out here, right? So point F lies on a unit circle at 1, 0. We don't really have to zoom in. We could, the thing that matters is the direction, not really the size, but whatever. All right. So we're going to do here is one value, -1, y. So we're going to be up here. Then we're going to go here. Okay. This is going to be a 90-degree angle. All right, 90 degrees is pi over FGH. So this is FGH. Okay, so when we do that, Positive measure of angle FGH in radians. FGH. What's going on with this one? Lines and circles. Oh my gosh. Did I misread this? 1 comma 0. I did 0 comma 1. Again, I'm off my game here with this. So 1 comma 0. 0 comma 0, negative 1 comma 1. So that's a total of pi. So it should be D. Why is it a D, you might ask, right? Because 2 pi would give us an even value, but we just wanted 1 pi. So we wanted a whole pi, but we want it to be an odd number. So let's go down. Yeah, so now let's go to the next one here. Triangles LMN and RST, angles L and R each have a measure of 60 degrees. LN equals 10 and RT equals 30. Which additional piece of information must be is sufficient to prove the triangle LMN is similar to triangle RST? Let's draw these out just to visualize it. So we're going to have LMN. LMN RST. LN is 10, RT. Oh, oops, I did LM. LN is 10, RT is 30. Each have a measure of angle 60, right? MN equals 7, ST equals 7. That wouldn't work because that would prove that they're not proportional across because we want a proportionality of 3. So it's not going to be that. MN equals 7, ST equals 21, possibly. The measures of angle M and S are 70 and 60 respectively. That would not prove it because then they're not equal. The measures of angle M are 70 and T is 50. That works because T is different, but that should be different because they're at a different position. So this would be 50. That would make this 70. And if this is 70, that would make this 50. So our answer will be dun, 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 D. This one's very logical. It's a pretty unique question. They don't come with that often, but it's great to know. Is the triangle shown? What is the value of sine X? Oh my gosh. This feels too easy. Should be 16 over 23. I don't know why this one's labeled as hard. Perimeter of an isosceles right triangle. Oh, I love this one. This one I've seen people ask questions. It's definitely been on the test this past year, and I could see it being on the test on Saturday. Not for everyone. Not everyone's taking the same exact questions, but for some of you. So the perimeter of an isosceles right triangle is this. So remember, an isosceles right triangle is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we're going to have x, x, x root 2. So when we add them together, we're going to get 2x plus x root 2 equals 18 plus 18 root 2. And the issue is people think, oh, it's 18. And then they put that. It's not going to work that way because if it was 18, then we'd be getting 36. What you can do is factor out the x and get 18 plus 18 root 2 over 2 plus root 2. And I could explain to you how it works algebraically, but let's plug it in and you'll see that it should be like 9 root 2 or something. So we're going to have parentheses 18 plus 18 times 2 to the 1/2. This is the root button, but I'm not going to use it. Divided by 2 plus 2 to the 1. Get rid of this actually. So we get 12.72. None of those answers are there, but let's do 9 times 2 to the 1/2. We got that. So it should be B. All right, see, this one, you just think about it algebraically and it works out. Also, go here to get the root button. I just didn't feel like scrolling down. Why? I have no idea. Oh, wait, what did it ask for? Oh my gosh. I killed myself. It's asking for the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse would be root 2 times this would be 18. Unbelievable. All that work for nothing. So this is why you want to be careful and be thinking. And don't do what I'm doing. Don't be live streaming during the test. That's not going to be helpful. A cylindrical can containing pieces of fruit is filled to the top with syrup before being sealed. The base of the can has an area of 75 centimeters, and the height of the can is 10 centimeters. If 110 centimeters of syrup is needed to fill the can to the top, which of the following is closest to the total volume of the pieces of fruit in the can? Okay. So the area is just going to be 75 times 10. So it's going to be 750. And then we just subtract the 110. So it should be 640. All right, this is our last one. And we're going to switch now to some verbal practice. Let's go there now. The following text is from Thomas Mann's 1924 novel, The Magic Mountain, translated by Johnny Woods in 1995. I'm a big fan of this novel. I would recommend reading it for fun. Don't worry about the SAT. Just read it for fun in your life. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you, Amna. I believe in you. The following text is from Thomas Mann. Oh, I already read that. The story of Hans Castorp that we intend to tell here, not for his sake, for the reader will come to know him as a perfectly ordinary, if engaging, young man, but for the sake of the story itself, which seems to us to be very much worth telling, although in Hans Castorp's favor, it should be noted that it is his story, and that not every story happens to everybody, is a story that took place long ago, and is, so to speak, covered with the patina of history, and must necessarily be told with verbs whose tense is that of the deepest past. What does the text most strongly suggest about the story of Hans Castorp? Okay, in these types of questions, the key is to focus on the different answer choices and then go from there, okay? So let's see what the difference is between the answer choices we have. Though it is true that stories of even the most uninteresting people are themselves interesting because all people are unique, the stories in this story is interesting is nonetheless difficult to understand because of the passage of time. We never get a sense that it's interesting because all people are unique. We don't get that told to us. So it's probably not that, but I'm not going to eliminate it until I've read all the answer choices. Even though it is a story of a person of no particular importance, its age and the manner in which it therefore must be told are both indicators that the story itself is important. We're not told that it is old. But maybe, like all stories, because it is told that it took place long ago. Like all stories about the lives of inconsequential people, this story must necessarily be related in a particular way. The story is consequential to be made evident to the audience. I would say not that one. It is a remarkable story that happened to an unremarkable person, though one could plausibly argue that because the story is valuable, some of its value accrues to the person as its center. Okay. Okay. So I believe it would be B because even if it is a remarkable story, we're not told that it accrues on him, even though it's suggested. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. To one unremarkable person, though one could possibly argue that because the story is valuable, where do we get that sense? I'm burning out, guys. I'm burning out. All right, let's try this one. With its towering six-spired exterior of granite like quartz monzonite, the Salt Lake Temple is one of the most instantly recognizable structures in the states of Utah. However, many people do not know that blank built over the course of 40 years of construction beginning. So it was built, one was built, they were built, both were built. Most important, instantly recognizable structure. So it was built, right? Because we're talking about the temple. It's one of the most instantly recognizable structures, but it's only one. So it's specifically that one. We're talking about it directly. So it was built. Great. Now let's try this one here. A member of the Cherokee Nation, Mary Golda Ross, is renowned for contribution to NASA's Planetary Flight Handbook, which blank detailed mathematical guidance for missions to Mars and Venus. Provided, having provided, to provide, providing. So it provided, right? Because we're in the past, is renowned for contributions, which to provide, that wouldn't work, which providing. So which provided. Great. Then we have this one, Marta, Cole, and colleagues, 2010 Mediterranean Sea Biodiversity Census reported approximately 17,000 species, nearly double the number reported in Carlo Bianchi and Carlo Mori's 2000 census. A difference only partly attributable to the description of new invertebrate species in the interim. Another factor is that the morphological variability of microorganisms is poorly understood compared to that of vertebrates, invertebrates, plants, and algae, creating uncertainty about how to evaluate microorganisms as species. Researchers' decisions on such matters, therefore, can be highly consequential. Indeed, the two censuses reported similar counts of vertebrate, plant, and algae species, suggesting that. All right, so one thing I want to point out is they often have proper nouns in these. But do I care about the proper nouns? Not really that much. Only if they come up in the future. I don't want to get hung up on the things I don't know. So Cole and colleagues reported a much higher number of species. Cole and colleagues reported a much higher number of species than Bianchi. So Carl and Bianchi had 2,000. Cole and colleagues had 17,000. Largely to the inclusion of vertebrate species that had not been described at the time of Bianchi and Mori's census, maybe. Some differences observed in microorganisms may have been treated as variations within species by Bianchi and Mori, but treated as indicative of distinct species by Cole and colleagues. Okay, that one might be it. Because by having them be treated as the same species but different, they might be counting far fewer species for Bianchi and Mori than Cole and colleagues who would be doing many species. And Bianchi and Mori may have been less sensitive to the degree of morphological variation displayed within a typical species of microorganism than Cole and colleagues were. I don't know, maybe, but I think B is still better. The absence of clarity regarding how to differentiate them may have resulted in Cole and colleagues underestimating the number. So we don't know if they're doing, these are the ones who estimated higher, so that one wouldn't make sense. So it should be B. Great. Great job, gang. All right. Microbes that live in shallow lakes and ponds produce methane, a harmful green gas. Ecologist Ralph Aben and his team wanted to see how different types of shallow water plants might affect the amount of methane that escapes into the atmosphere. Aben's team set up water tanks with soil and microbes from local ponds. Some tanks had a typical type of underwater plant that grows in the soil called water milfoil. Other tanks had either duckweed, a type of plant that floats on the water surface, or algae. Aben and his team found that tanks with duckweed and algae released higher levels of methane than tanks with water milfoil did. This finding suggests A, the presence of some kinds of underwater plants like water milfoil help prevent methane from escaping shallow lakes and ponds. Shallow lakes and ponds release more methane than deeper bodies of water because shallow bodies of water usually have more plants than deep bodies of water do. Shallow lakes and ponds are more likely to contain algae than to contain either water milfoil or duckweed. Having a mix of algae, underwater plants, and floating plants is the best way to reduce the amount of methane in shallow lakes and ponds. Okay, let's see. So we're not talking about shallow versus deeper bodies of water. More like contain. So it should be A, right? Because we're being told that water milfoil has lower amounts than duckweed and algae. The other ones didn't have to do with that specific thing. They were just making things up as they went. So the algae species Chlorella vulgaris is very efficient at making oxygen. For this reason, scientists are currently exploring ways to use this species in space. C. vulgaris might be used, for example, to build future biological air exchange systems that blink oxygen for astronauts that are producing. This is for the future. That produced, no. That have produced, no. It should be C, produce. Okay, great, great, great. Okay. The following text is from Jan Martel's 2001 novel, Life of Pi. The narrator's family owned a zoo when he was a child. It was a huge zoo spread over numberless acres, big enough to require a train to explore it, though it seemed to get smaller as I grew older, train included. Okay, so this part is just giving us the intro, the first sentence, right? Usually there's a better space, so it doesn't look like all one big passage. It was a huge zoo spread over numberless acres. Big enough. Okay, so as used in the text, what does the word spread most nearly mean? Hidden? We don't get any sense of it being hidden. Discussed? No, but we're being told about its size. So extended should be the one. Coded is not it either, because it's not covering anything. So Carl, I'm going off outside. While many video game creators strive to make their graphics ever more blank, others look to the past, developing titles with visuals inspired by the 8-bit games of the 1980s and 1990s. The term 8-bit refers to a console whose processor could only handle 8 bits of data at once. So we're told lifelike. So this whole part, by beginning with while, we're setting up a subordinate clause. So a subordinate clause is connected to the other part with just a comma. We don't need to have the but, because the but and the while would cancel each other out. You wouldn't use them together. If it had started with many video games, blank, 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 then you could do but the while cancels that out. But we do need a comma. Okay. Oh, hard one. Okay. The Fynbos shrubland is a diverse habitat found only in South Africa. It is adjacent to the Afro-temperate forest, with almost no transition space between the two distinct habitats. Plants in the Fynbos have uniquely thin and long root systems that spread out over large distances to absorb nutrients from the soil. Ecologists transplanted tree seedlings from the forest into plots in the Fynbos. Seedlings and plants isolated from the roots of Fynbos plants exhibited a growth rate 5 times greater than that of the seedlings and plots in close proximity to the roots of the Fynbos plants. Okay. Based on the text, what role do Fynbo roots most likely have in maintaining the border between the Fynbos shrubland and the Afro-temperate forest habitats? So we're told that the seedlings without the Fynbos plants grow much more than the seedlings with it. Roots damage the root system of forest plants, leaving those plants unable to acquire sufficient nutrients, maybe, that they constitute a physical barrier that forest plants cannot pass. The root system of Fynbos plants allows the plants to take in so many soil nutrients that forest plants are prevented from flourishing in the Fynbos. The root systems of Fynbos plants enhance the soil immediately surrounding plants, allowing them to thrive in an otherwise nice environment. It's definitely not D. Roots damage the root systems, leaving those unable to acquire sufficient nutrients. So I'm thinking it's C, but I'm just checking. Extend close enough to the forest that they constitute a physical barrier. Let's go with C. Exactly, because they're eating it up and they're taking away nutrients, but they're not like killing it off the way it would be with A, possibly. All right, now we have another grammar one. Nuhad al-Haddad, known as Fairuz, was one of the most beloved Lebanese singers of the 20th century. Her broad singing repertoire, which included traditional forms such as the Arabic qasida and maqam, alongside modern pop and jazz styles, lent Fairuz a timeless cross-generational appeal. Blank the moniker the soul of Lebanon. Okay. So what's earned, had earned, earning, earned? Known. So that's past tense. Lent Fairuz timeless. So comma. So we have already lent Fairuz timeless. So this is going to be a gerund, earning her the moniker. Okay, great. Oh, I love this question. I've done this one many times. In the United States, firms often seek incentives from municipal governments to expand to those municipalities. A team of political scientists hypothesize that municipalities are much more likely to respond to firms and offer incentives if expansions can be announced in time to benefit local elected officials than if they can't. The team contacted officials in thousands of municipalities, inquiring about incentives for a firm looking to expand and indicating that the firm would enhance its expansion on a date either just before or just after the next election. Which choice best describes data from the graph that weaken the team's hypothesis? So first, what is the team's hypothesis? Hypothesize that municipalities are much more likely to respond to firms and offer incentives if expansion is announced in time to benefit local elected officials. So that'd be before the election. Okay, so they're saying if they have it before the election, they would respond more. So let's see if that's true. A large majority of municipalities that received an inquiry mentioning plans for announcement before election didn't respond to the inquiry. So that could be hurting them. The proportion of municipalities that responded to the inquiry offered incentives didn't substantially different across the announcement timing conditions. I feel like B is stronger. Only around half the municipalities that responded to inquiries mentioning plans for announcement before the next election offered incentives. It's not about the incentives, it's about the timing. Of the municipalities that received an inquiry mentioning plans for an announcement date after the next election, more than 1,200 didn't respond and only around 100 offered incentives. Again, not that because we want timing conditions. So it's going to be B. Okay. Xin Wang and colleagues have discovered the earliest known example of a flower bud in a 164 million year old plant fossil in China. The researchers have named the new species Florigerminus jurassica. I don't need to know what that means. They believe that the discovery pushes the emergence of flowering plants or angiosperms back to the Jurassic period, which occurred between 145 million and 201 million years ago. According to the text, how old was the fossil that Wang and colleagues discovered? So how old was the fossil, huh? So the fossil would be 150 million years old, 145. Should be 164 million, right? That's they just tell it to us straight up. Lovely. In studying the use of external stimuli to reduce the itching sensation caused by an allergic histamine response, Louis Ward and colleagues found that while harmless applications of vibration or warming can provide a temporary distraction, such blank stimuli actually offer less relief than a stimulus that seems less benign, like a mild electric shock. Which choice completes the text with the most logical or precise word or phrase? Deceptive, innocuous, novel, and practical. So we're told it's harmless, so it should be innocuous. because those both mean like benign or harmless. They're not going to do any pain. Oh, this is a tough one. Let's do this one. This is a tricky one. So, rejecting the premise that the literary magazine Ebony and Topaz should present a unified vision of Black American identity, editor Charles S. Johnson fosters contributors' diverse perspectives by promoting their authorial autonomy. Johnson's self-effacement diverged from the notable stances of W.B. Du Bois and Alain Locke, whose decisions for the publication were more, which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase, proficient, dogmatic, ambiguous, unpretentious. Okay. So how is he different from them? They're more what? He contributed to diverse perspectives by promoting autonomy. So they must have not. So they must have been more dogmatic. That's like they're focused on one thing. So it should be B. Now, if you guys have questions at all on any of the ones I'm doing or anything related to the SAT or even not related to the SAT, feel free to ask. I'm going to be switching to math in about 10 minutes again. It is common for freshwater lakes near or above a latitude of 45 degrees north of the equator, like Mjøsa in Norway, to accumulate surface ice in winter. The amount and duration of ice depends on many factors, including local weather conditions, as well as the lake's depth, volume, and surface area. But a climate researcher claims that some lakes in these latitudes have seen a decline in the duration of ice between the early 1980s and the mid 2000s. She cites as a typical example. Okay, so what she's saying here, right, is that there's been a decline in the duration of ice between the early 1980s and the mid 2000s. Okay. Which choice most effectively uses data from the graph to complete the researcher's clue? So try this out. You can put your answer in the comment. A, both Lake Nusud and Ullashvarvi, which had fewer than 995 days of ice in the winter of 1980 to 1981. That wouldn't work because that's just comparing them in that year. We're trying to compare across. Just looking at it, I'm guessing we're going to be comparing Ullashvarvi in 1980 to Ullashvarvi to 2005 because that's where there's the big drop, right? Lake Nusido, which had more days of ice in the winter 2005 than it did in the winter 1980. That doesn't go with hers because she says there's been a decline. Ullashvarvi, which had fewer days of ice in the winter of 2005 to 2006 than it did in the winter of 1980, 1981. So that's the one I was guessing would come up, and that should be it. Let's look at D. Both Lake Nusido and Ullashvarvi, which had more than 105 days. No. So that's, again, not comparing across times. So in these, often you want to see what are we comparing against. Here we're comparing across time, not between locations. So it's got to be something like C. And these you don't always need to be doing the way I'm doing it, where I'm reading everything aloud, going through it. I'm just doing this to help you all out and explain my reasoning. Oglala Lakota poet Layli Solong Soldier Star Quilt poems offer an unusually open-ended reading experience, with blank 8 panels of text stitched together in the shape of a traditional 8-pointed Lakota Star quilt. The poems present viewers with a seemingly infinite number of ways to read them. And then which choice completes the text so that it conforms with there, it's, there, it's. So by looking at the answer choices, we're testing plural over singular and possessive or not. So the poems is what we're talking about. So it should be plural. And are they possessing something? With their 8 panels. So it should be plural possessive. So it should be there, T-H-E-I-R. There with an apostrophe and a Y is they are. Okay, great. Horsepower is a unit of measurement used to determine how much power a vehicle produces. This measurement is based on how much and how quickly weight can be blank. 1 unit for mechanical horsepower is equivalent to the amount of power it takes to lift 550 pounds 1 foot off the ground in 1 second. Then we have moved, for example, moved, with just a comma, moved semicolon, for example, and moved. So I'm thinking about the semicolon. Semicolons are used when you have two independent clauses. So in the first part, the measurement is based. That can create an independent clause. Horsepower is equivalent to the amount. So they're both independent clauses. Those are separated by either semicolons, colons, periods, commas, and fanboys. So it should be C. Okay. You know what? This is giving us a good signal to switch it up, go back to math. I was doing geometry and trig in math. That's what I'm going to go back to. But actually, I'm going to go back to everything in general, unless anyone wants me to cover a specific topic in the math. But I'm just going to set up the reading for later. We'll do this one, and then I'll refresh and do just math in general. A triangle has a base 10 centimeters and a corresponding height of 70 centimeters. What is the area in square centimeters of the triangle? We just do 10 times 70 divided by 2 will be 350. All right, so let's refresh. And let's begin again. Math time. They'll do just medium and hard. Okay, it's loading up for us. An economist modeled the demand Q for a certain product as a linear function of the selling price P. The demand was 20,000 units when the selling price was $40 per unit. The demand was 15,000 units when the selling price was $60 per unit. Based on the model, what is demand in units when the selling price is $55 per unit? So what you could do actually is plug in. So when you have 40, you have 20,000, 200, 2,000, 20,000. And when you have 60, you have 15,000. Let's generate a linear regression. Great. And now we'll plug that in with 55. So we'll do negative 250 times 55 plus 30,000, 3,000, 16,250. It'll be A. Beautiful. The function f is defined by f of x equals 4x plus k parentheses x minus 1, where k is a constant and 5 equals 32. What is the value of f of 10? Okay, let's just find it. I'll write this one out. So let's plug in 5 and let's plug in 32. So 32 goes here equals 4 times 5 plus k, 5 minus 1. That's going to become 4. So we're going to have 32 equals 20 plus 4k. We're going to subtract, and we're going to get 12 equals 4k. K equals 3. Now it's asking for 10. So we'll plug in 3 there. So we're going to have 4 times 10 plus 3 times 9. 40 plus 27, we're going to get 67. Nice and clean. All right, let's try this. Which expression is equivalent to a to the 11/12, where a is greater than 0? Okay, so if a is greater than 0, this is to the 11th power root 12. Okay. So it would be b, because this would be 132 over 144. When you divide that out, it will get you back to 11/12. The function f gives the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit that corresponds to a temperature of x Kelvin. If a temperature increased by 2.1 kelvins, by how much did the temperature increase in degrees Fahrenheit? Okay, so let's see, degrees Fahrenheit. So let's say it's 0 to start. Okay, so here, I'm guessing it's going to be 2.1 times 9/5, which would be something like this. Look, let me work it. Let me work it. I wrote 6, 7. All my students say they've been talking about the number 6, 7. I don't really get the joke. So if anyone could explain it in the comments, I would much appreciate it. So it should be 3.78 because that would be the slope times the difference. But I'll show you how it works, right? Let's say it's originally 0. Okay, so we'd have 9/5, or let's say it's originally 1, just to make it another number. Minus 273.15. Plus 32. Now I'm going to take that same equation, copy it, but I'm going to replace the 1 by 2.1 more than it, so it'll be 3.1. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to subtract it from here. Oh no, that's not going to work. That didn't work either. Oh, because it should be 3.1. So 3.78. So see the difference there is 3.78. Don't do what I just did there. Understand that it's just about the difference by changing this by 2.1, and you have to multiply it by 9/5. I guess no one will explain 6, 7 to me. That's okay. I guess I don't need to know what it is. All right. One of the two equations in the system of linear equations is given the system has no solution. Which equation could be the second equation in the system? So 3x equals 36y minus 45. They have to have the same slopes. So we notice 36 is 12 times as big as the x. So it should be C. But let's see what the difference is there. If we did C, what would happen, right? Let's multiply everything by 3. That's going to be the same equation. They're all identical. So it's not actually C. Now D, that's 36 times as big. B, again, there's a 12 times as big. And there's no 45, so that should work. If you have questions on that, I'd be happy to help. Remember, I have prediction videos. I have a Substack that explains some questions. I have a whole bunch going on, and I'm always making more. Ken is working this summer as a part of a crew on a farm. He earned $8 per hour for his first 10 hours he worked this week. Because of his performance, his crew leader raised his salary to $10 per hour for the rest of the week. Ken saves 90% of his earnings from each week. What is the least number of hours he must work the rest of the week to save $270 for the week? So he's saving 90% of his earnings. So basically 90% of Y, let's get 90% of K equals 270. So K has to equal 300. So he has to make a total of $300. So far he's made 8 times 10, 80. And he's also made $10 per hour. So he has to work another 22 hours to get that 300, right? Because he has to get to 220 more to get to the 300. So it should be C. And the key here is that it's asking for hours more. So it wouldn't be 32 because we're already counting the first 10 hours. I don't get what this XP is on this thing, but if anyone could tell me what that means, I would appreciate it. Systems of two linear equations. The solution to the system given equations is xy. What is the value of 6 parentheses x minus 2? Okay, so let's pretend x is just x. And then we have 4y plus 7, 4y plus 7. Let's just do y and x. We don't, because they're the same thing. We can work it out. So we're going to have 4y equals 117. X plus 4y equals 442. Okay, this is where they intersect. 279.5 is this. So then it should just be 6 times that. So let's do 279.5 times 6. So it'll be 1677. Let me see this question here I got. No, I don't use Desmos for everything. I actually use Desmos a lot less than my students like to use it, and a lot less than most. You could have subtracted as well. Let's see, let's go back. But honestly, right now, since I'm on the calculator on here with Desmos, I just wanted to type. If you add the equations, they don't totally work. You could do that, but this way was faster for sure. This way was definitely faster. In the given systems of equations, W is a constant in the XY plane. The graph of these equations intersect at the point Q19, where Q is a constant. What is the value? What is the value of W? Okay, interesting. So this is similar to what we just did. Now this one I am going to subtract because the W makes the graphing a little bit more complicated. Yeah, no, the way you're talking about it, mix and mail makes total sense. It would work. I'm just typing here. It's another method. So here I'm going to subtract the first equation from the second equation. So I'm going to do 2x minus wy equals 47. And now I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to add x, add wy equals added 30, 37. Everything's a negative of itself. So I'm going to get 3x equals 344, 384. Then I'm going to divide that by 3. This one has 3 variables, but because the wy are connected, we can just eliminate them like that. So we're going to get, let me just check. It's going to be 384 divided by 3, 128. The SAT is for like 16, 7-year-olds are taking it. Mostly 17-year-olds, they're juniors, so they're in 11th grade. It's going to be 128. What is the value of W? Okay. So we plug in 19. So then we have what Y is, we have what X is, so let's find it. We're going to do, let me type this up. I don't really use the slider. I just did the elimination method here. Because the W and Y are connected, they're basically just one unit. They're just confusing you by having W, but we can just eliminate them so easily together that it works out. So now we know that the point is going to be 128, comma 19. And now I'm going to plug that into the second equation. It's going to be 2, comma 128, or not comma, parentheses, minus 19W equals 47. So W is going to equal 47 minus 2 times 128, which is going to be 256, but I don't even need to write that. Divided by negative 19. Honestly, I use this Desmos for a lot, but it's good to have mental math skills as well. Don't make this into a total crutch. 2 times 128. And then I'm going to divide by negative 19, and I get 11. It should be 11 here. Okay, perfect. All right. This is a tricky one for sure. It's a tricky one, but totally possible. Each side of a 30-sided polygon has one of 3 lengths. The number of sides with length 8 centimeters is 5 times the number of sides, and with length 3 centimeters. Yeah, Khan Academy often teaches in like the most direct way that can be helpful, but they're always teaching the long way. They don't teach the tricks, and you need some tricks to be able to finish this test in time. Each side of a 30-sided polygon has one of 3 lengths. The number of sides with length 8 centimeters is 5 times the number of sides with length 3. There are 6 sides with length 4 centimeters. Which equation must be true for the value of n? Okay. Six side lengths with length 4. Which equation must be true for the value of n? Okay. Each side of a 30-sided polygon, the number of side lengths with 8 is 5 times the number of sides, and there are 6 sides with length 4. Which equation must be true for the value of n? Okay, so 6 sides, just forget about those. Okay, they're gone. So now we have 24 sides. With length 8 is 5 times the number of sides n. Okay. So basically 5n plus n equals 24. Let's see this now. Let's see, what am I doing wrong here? The number of sides with length 8 centimeters is 5 times the number of sides with length 3 centimeters. There are 6 sides with length 4. Okay. Oh yeah, 6n plus 6. Why did I not see this as an answer choice? I had totally blanked on it for some reason. All right, yeah. I don't know why I made that harder on myself. The graph shows a linear relationship between x and y. Which equation represents this relationship where r is a positive constant? Interesting. So this is a negative slope. We want r to be positive. So when it's a negative slope and on the same side, you want them to be the same sign. So like this one should work. This one, r would be negative. Or this one, r would be positive. And this one, r would be negative. But we want it to work for us. Interesting. So 18y, when y, okay, so here when x is 0, y is 2. That doesn't work because we want y to be 6. So it has to be the other one. So it should be C. Let's check. Okay. Anyone have any questions on this? If you do, feel free to ask me. Okay, no. Line K is defined by y equals negative 7/3 x plus 5. Line J is perpendicular to line K. What is the slope? Okay, so if they're perpendicular, negative reciprocal, baby. Easy. Love it. You flip the fraction, you change the sign. A competitive diver dives from a platform into the water. The graph shown gives the height. What is the best interpretation of the x-intercept? The diver reaches a maximum height above the water at 1.6 seconds. No, 1.6 seconds is not the max. Diver hits the water 1.6 seconds. That seems to be like it's probably true. At 0.2 seconds. Okay. Diver hits the water at 0.2 seconds. Best interpretation of the x-intercept. The x-intercept is here. So even though C is probably true, should be B. I love it. Oh, what did you ask, Max? Let's see. Okay, and how can I tell if the word problem is asking me to make a linear equation to find the answer, and also what volumes, perimeter, areas for the shapes? Wait, could you ask that question again? I'm not sure I totally know. Okay, while you re-ask that, I'll do this one here. The function f is defined, f of x equals 270.1 to the x. What is the value of f of 0? So you just plug in anything to the 0 power is 1. So it's 270 times 1, it's d. Graph in the model, next my plane models the possible combinations. When do you make it into one linear equation? Okay. So the ones you need to know for the equations are basically going to be volume of prisms, which is area of the base times the height, including a cylinder, right, which is the area of the circle times the height. Then you need to know surface area of rectangular prisms, which is each of the two things multiplied together, each of the two dimensions, and then doubled, and then added all together. Then you need to know volume of a sphere. Here, actually, I'll show you right here. The reference sheet. These are the equations you need to know. Right? They'll give you this, but you want to have these all memorized. So pyramid, this also works for cones here. And you want to be able to go from there. You also definitely want to know special right triangles. Okay, this is on the test, but if you want to be a high scorer, you got to have these memorized because they'll take too much time. And then in terms of wants me to make a linear equation to find a specific variable, that's harder to tell. But if they give you values and you're looking for a variable and they tell you it's a linear relationship, then you should be making a linear equation. Okay, they often use the term either line or linear equation to solve. So I hope that helped. Sphere, remember, is important. And if you know these, you'll be fine. Also, Pythagorean theorem, a classic. So if you need me to clarify more, I'd be happy to. I'll keep going with this until I hear back. The graph in the xy plane models the possible combinations of length x in meters and width y in meters for a rectangle with a perimeter of 36. Which statement is the best interpretation of the points 8, 10 in this context? So the length is x. Okay, I'm glad I helped you. The length is x, width is y. So length is 8, width is 10. Tricky here. They're trying to throw us off because length and width, they're the same thing. Who cares about the terminology? But the SAT likes to trick you. Yeah, Max, and I think you could be an SAT tutor probably. What value of t is the solution to the equation? Oh my gosh. Okay, you could work this out. Honestly, I prefer to work it out, but for you guys, I'm going to do it on here. You just set it equal. I messed up because I should have put X here, but oops. I'm just going to change it to X. Let's look at this beautiful value. Oh, I hate this. Okay, so that should be, I could make it into a fraction. But I will just do it out. That'll be more fun anyway. So I'm gonna do 0.8t minus 0.46 equals 8t minus 0.008 plus 1.9. So I'm gonna subtract the 8t. I'm gonna get 7.2t. This is gonna become plus 1.892, I believe. Let's check that. Let's check it because I'm getting burnt out here and I probably make silly mistakes. Yep, exactly 1.892. Okay, Maxon's got me beat here. You guys are too quick for me right now. Okay, so then we got negative 0.46 equals 7.2t plus 1.892. Then I'll subtract. And I will get, let me see, negative 0.46 minus 1.892, negative 2.3. Okay, so I'm going to do negative 2.352 divided by 7.2. Let's make that into a fraction. Negative 49 over 150. All right, Maxon, you probably had that before me. And if you had any tips to share them away. But that's the way I would do that one. It's not too bad. It's just kind of annoying because I like it when the numbers are clean. A model predicts that the population of Bergen was 15,000 in 2005. The model also predicts that each year for the next 5 years, the population increased by 4% of the previous year's population. Which equation best represents this model? Where X is the number of years after 2005 for X is less than or equal to 5. So it starts at 15,000 and it increases by 4%. So we're going to do 15,000 and then 1.04 to the X. So it'll be D because that's a 4% increase. That one's very conceptual. You don't actually have to do the math if you understand linear functions. Okay. Now let's see. Line P is defined by line R is perpendicular to line P. What is the slope of line R? So the slope of line P, when you subtract, it'd be negative 18. Here, I'll write it. This one I like to write out. So we have 2y equals negative 18x plus 9 divided by 2. So y equals negative 9x plus 9 over 2, but that doesn't really matter. Then we flip it. So we're going to have 1/2 or 1/9. So it'll be C. All right, great. The cost of renting a carpet cleaner is $52 for the first day and $26 for each additional day. Which of the following functions gives the cost in dollars for renting the carpet cleaner for D days where D is a positive integer? Okay, so if D is a positive integer, then we're going to have 52 for the first day and 26 for each additional day. So how they trick you is by doing this 52, but then let's think about for the second. If we do 2 days, it should be $78. But if you did it with this, you get 2 times 26, which is 52, That gives you 104. So we have to subtract 26 from the y-intercept to account for it. So it's actually going to be A. Gosh. It froze up on us. Okay, let's start over. Yeah, exactly. They trick you on that one. They get you, trust me. They get you. They'll find a way and they'll do it. So let's select all skills. If anyone wants me to focus on a specific skill, just put in the comments and I'll go from there. Oh yeah, it's done for you, man. It's done for you. You miss one question, it's over. I can't miss a question. They fire me. Is a factor. Oh my gosh. Look, now we've lost the graphing calculator because Maxon broke it on us. Okay. So let's factor this. Let's factor this. There's a couple ways to do this. I can factor the classic way. So 3 times negative 63 is going to give me negative 189. So what multiplies? You could also, I'll show you another way after, once the count. Well, let's see on the next one. So negative 189. Then you're going to do what has a difference of 20 and multiplies to negative 189. So you have 9 times 21. 3 times 63. Huh. It's 2 only. Interesting. Okay, so it multiplies to negative 63, or multiplies to negative 189. What about 7 times something? 7 times 27 will get us 189. So that'll be it. So it's going to be 3x squared plus 27x minus 7x minus 63. We're going to do Irma's method. We'll factor out the 3x here. We'll be left with x plus 9. Factor out a negative 7 there. Get left with x plus 9. So our two factors will be x plus 9, 3x minus 7. It will be exactly. Maxon's got it. So we're going to just do 2 only. Let's see if we refresh what happens. Let's see if we can get that calculator back, just in case we need it. We'll switch to... Okay, we got it back anyway. All right. The system of equations above has solutions x, y. What is the value of x? Okay, so y equals 8. X is going to equal like 6. But let's check it out. Could also graph, but it should be. And then x minus 1/2 y. 2. 6. Yep, I got it. D. The equation 7g plus 7b equals 840 represents the number of blue tiles B and the number of green tiles G. An artist needs for a 40 square inch tile project. The artist needs 71 blue tiles for the project. How many green tiles does he need? Okay. So we just plug in. So we're going to have 7g plus 7 times 71 equals 840. So it's going to be 7g plus 497 equals 840. Then we're going to subtract. We're going to get 7g equals 343. G equals 49. Okay, let's see if I messed up on my math there, but I think I should be fine. Woo! I still got it, fellas. I still, and gals, fellas and gals, and non-binary pals. For which of the following tables are all the values of x and their corresponding values of y solutions to the given inequality? Okay. Y equals 13x minus 18. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got this here. So when x is 3, y is 21. 326, 316, 326. Okay. So when x is 3, so y has to be greater than 21. So it can't be this one. Can't be this one. Okay. When x is 5, you know what? Yeah, let's just plug in. So 5 times 13 is 65. Minus 18 is going to be 47. So it has to be greater than 47. So it has to be D. Good thinking. Good thinking. Circle A has a radius of 3n. Circle B has a radius of 129n, where n is a positive constant. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A? All right, I'm going to drink some water while I think on this. So the ratio here is going to be 43 because 129n divided by 3n is going to equal 43. So then to find the ratio of the areas, because area is just side lengths squared, we do 43 squared. So we get 1849. It'll be D. All right. Cargo helicopter delivers only 100-pound packages and 120-pound packages. For each delivery trip, the helicopter must carry at least 10 packages, and the total weight of the packages can be at most 1,100 pounds. What is the maximum number of 120-pound packages that the helicopter can carry per trip? Okay. So let's say x plus y has to be greater than or equal to 10. 100x plus 120y has to be less than or equal to 1,100. So yeah, if you look at this, right? Oh yeah, it can't be that one. All right, so we could just graph again. Because that'll give us, let's see. And then we're gonna do 100x plus 120y less than 1,100. You're probably right about that. Yep. Meets at 5, 5. Can't be at most, so yeah, 5 would work. See. Perfect. And you could solve that algebraically as well if you wanted to. Exactly. That's a good strategy there. I like that. Okay, the graph of the given equation in the circle, point AB lies in the circle. What is the following is a possible value for A? Okay. So these together have to be 121. Right? So if you plug in like 11 plus 4 squared is already more than 121. That's too big. 19 plus 4 already too big. Negative 16 plus 4 gets us 12. 12 squared is going to be too big. Negative 14 is going to be exactly, radius is 11. So it has to be this here, where we have a rate. This gets us a distance of 10. You got it. You know your circle equations. I like to see that. Oh, I love this one. The t plus 3 is just the same thing twice. So you could do the value of t is the solution to the given equation. So when we combine, we can actually combine the units first. So we're going to do this. 5 minus 7 is negative 2t plus 3. It is faster, right? I have some tricks. I've been doing this for a while. This is another trick combining right here. So then divide by negative 2t plus 3 was negative 19. T equals negative 22. So see, this one's not hard, even if you do it the regular way, but this way just saves a bit of time. Oh, gosh. Gotta go over here. Now let's see this one here. Line T in the XY plane is a slope of negative 1/3 and passes through the point 9, 10. Which equation defines line T? Okay. We need a slope of negative 1/3. It's not going to be A, it's not going to be B. Then 9, 10. It's not going to be here because that would be 0, 10. So it has to be D. Okay, here. Which of the following ordered pairs is the solution to the system of inequalities above? So this one will be y is less than x, y is less than or equal to negative x. So let's look. In A, y is less than x. In B, it's also, but it's not less than or equal to negative x. It'll be D. Because there, no matter what x is, y is going to be less than it. Okay, we might switch at the end to grammar if anyone's interested in doing some grammar work, but let me know if you want to stay on math or anything. The graph shows the relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A, X, and the number of shares of stock from company B, Y, that someone can purchase. Which equation could represent this relationship? Y equals 8x plus 10, that would be going up. That doesn't work. Y equals 12x, that's also not going to work. So it has to be these because this will give a negative slope. So they equal 480. So it should be B because when we plug in 40 for Y and 0 for X, we get 480 there. If we did it here, we would only get like 320. Given system of equations, P is a constant. The system has no solution. What is the value of P? Okay. Let's make this happen here. So we have 1/2 x on one side. We have these y's on both sides. Let's move this y over so that the y's and x's are on the same side of each equation. So we're going to have negative 1/4 x equals 2/3. We subtract 3/2, so we're going to get minus 6/2y, which is just 3, right? Minus 3y. And then on the bottom, we'll have 1/2 x plus 3/2 equals py. I don't actually care these values because they're telling us has no solutions. So those aren't going to line up, and I don't have to worry about trying to make them line up. So how do we get from this to make a parallel line? This is -2 of that one. So we're now here, we have -3. So P should be -2 of -3. So it should be 6. Okay, we're doing it. We're making progress. Right triangle ABC is shown. What is the value of tan A? So this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So that's going to make this 27, and that's going to make this 27 root 3. So tan would be root 3 over 1, because it'd be 27 root 3. Oh, I see your question. Let me see. Let me go back a bit. Yeah, basically you're doubling the first equation on this one. Yeah. Okay, in a study of cell phone use, 799 randomly selected US teens were asked. I think this will be my last math question, and I'm going to switch just to grammar. About their texting behavior, the data are summarized in the table above. Based on the data from the study, an estimate of the percent of US teens who are heavy texters is 30%, and the associated margin of error is 3%. Which of the following is a correct statement based on the given margin of error? It's not possible that the percent of is less than no. So margin of error is just telling you the most likely range. So the middle is 30% with a margin of error of 3. It should be between 27 and 33% most likely, but it's not guaranteed. So it's not going to be approximately 3% of teens in the study are classified as heavy texters or not really heavy texters. It's not going to be B. It's not possible that the percent of all US teens who are heavy texters is less than 27%. It's not going to be C, because you can do, yeah, it is a lot of info, but you can actually ignore the info. You can just focus on the concept of margin of error. That's what this is asking. So it should be D. It is doubtful that the percent of all your teens who are heavy texters is 35%. Perfect. All right, now let's go back, leave page. Well, let's do this again. Practice rush, practice rush. We're just going to do boundaries, and I'm going to do rhetorical synthesis as well. How'd your UCAT go? Is that the UK test? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Okay. For these, I actually like to read the question and answer choices first. The student wants to indicate how Fulton, Missouri got its name. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? So how did it get its name? Fulton, Missouri shares its name with Fulton Street. Fulton Street is in New York. Fulton, Missouri is named after Robert Fulton, designer of the first commercially successful. Oh, glad to hear it. MCATs are tough. They're tough out here. So you're going to medicine. So for this one here, Fulton, Missouri is named after Robert Fulton. That's what's telling us, right? It's got its name. That's what we care about finding, how it got its name. We don't care about anything else, so the other answers don't matter. You could check here. Is named after Robert Fulton. The French directors Colas Kula and Vivian Mermet-Guignat, known as Kula and Viv, founded the video game studio Blue 12. They also love cats. Blank. They created an award-winning cat video game, Stray, that lets the player explore a dystopian city from the perspective of a clever orange house cat. So this is emphasizing how much they love cats. So we're going to say, in fact, okay, in fact, they created an award winning, because that's sort of adding on by emphasizing. Okay, good. The prime meridian, the global indicator of 0 degrees longitude established in 1804, was originally determined using astronomically derived coordinates. Exactly, in fact. Blank, as decades passed, new calculations would reveal increasingly precise coordinates. yet the prime meridian remains unchanged. It wasn't until the 1980s that spurred by improved geodetic data, the prime meridian was officially moved roughly 100 meters east. Okay. Okay. Granted, as that gets past New Count, it wasn't until. So it should be again and again, because they're sort of saying that this is happening multiple times and it's changing it, but they haven't changed it, right? Remained unchanged. The envelope-shaped paper bags common in the US 150 years ago were impractical for carrying goods. Blank. Because they were the only paper bags that could be mass-produced, these bags dominated the market. They all changed in the 1870s to make a flat-bottomed foldable paper bag. So there's a pivot here, right? Because the first part, they're saying they're bad for goods, so you wouldn't expect them to be used all the time, but they were. So that, however, sets that up. All right, transitions. Let's see. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's 2013 novel Americana chronicles the divergent experiences of Ifemelu and Obins, a young Nigerian couple. After high school, Ifemelu moves to the United States to attend a prestigious university. Blank Obins travels to London, hoping to start a career there. However, frustrated with the lack of opportunities, he soon returns to Nigeria. So, meanwhile, so it's happening at the same time. I think so. It would be meanwhile. Nevertheless, creates a contrast that doesn't exist here. Secondly, also doesn't go with it because it's not coming off the same point, and it's not in fact, which would be emphasizing something. Great. In modern plays, actors typically won't acknowledge the blank. Do so breaks the fourth walls of metaphorical. So we look at this audience as to audience, audience. In modern plays, actors don't typically acknowledge the audience. To do so breaks the fourth wall, a metaphorical barrier between audiences that allow viewers to suspend the knowledge that they're watching a stage performance. This is two separate parts, two independent clauses. So we need to separate with a period, semicolon, or a comma fanboys. So it's going to be C. As to doesn't make sense. So that's not going to be it. It'll just be C. From afar, African-American fiber artist Bisa Butler's portraits look like paintings. Their depiction of human faces, bodies, clothing so intricate that it seems only a fine brush could have rendered them. When viewed up close, however, the portraits reveal themselves to be blank, stitching barely visible among the thousands of pieces printed microcut fabric. I know, it's crazy. I saw your what? No, this one's true. All right. Themselves to be. I know it's tough. When viewed up close, however, the portraits reveal themselves to be quilts, the stitching barely visible among the thousand. So the stitching barely visible among the thousand fabrics of printed microcut fabric is not a full independent clause. So we can't do a period or a semicolon or a comma fanboys. It would just be comma with just the word the, because that sets it up as a subordinate clause to the first part. Yeah, I'd love to do some A-level stuff in the future, definitely. That'd be fun. Using satellite remote sensing, Dr. Catherine Nakalemb, director of NASA's Harvest Africa Initiative, gathers important data on crop health. Nakalemb doesn't just compile the blanks, she also shares her findings, the information, though. She also shares her findings with African farmers, enabling them to make data-driven decisions about, okay. So the first part here, Nakalemb doesn't just compile, so that's a full independent clause. And then in the next part, she also shares her findings. That's an independent clause. So we need to be separated with a semicolon. So it's not going to be D or B. We could also be separated with a period or a comma and a fanboys, but we don't have those as options. And then what's a speed? Okay, so then when does the though go? Is it going to go before or after the semicolon though? It's going to go before because those come in the first part before the pivot. Otherwise, you're making a subordinate clause and it wouldn't work. Okay, there it is. Practical movie effects such as okay, so this one, okay. Practical movie effects such as the use of actual locations in film provide a more realistic visual experience than computer generated imagery does. But giving audiences the real thing can be prohibitively expensive. Blank. Many filmmakers use a blended approach, employing practical effects whenever possible and CGI elements as necessary to control costs. So the second part is being explained by the first part. So it should be for this reason. Which choice completes the text so it conforms to the standard conventions? We have items managing. So this is all about boundaries. So you can tell it's just changing the punctuation. We have nothing, comma, semicolon, period. So let's check it out. Honestly, the fact that there's a semicolon and a period, they're probably neither one because they should both work or they both don't work. So let's see. As the 14th Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden has many responsibilities. These include overseeing the Library of Congress's collection, which boasts more than 162 million blank. The U.S. copyright items, managing the U.S. Copyright Office, which registers copyrights. Okay. So yeah, it's not C or D because there's no independent clause after. Items. So, oh, actually, you know what? I messed up. It is semicolon because this is a list. This is a list which boasts more than 162 million items, managing the QS copyright and appointing. Oh my gosh, they actually got me one where this doesn't work. Okay, good. Because semicolons, you use them to make lists when the items within the list use commas. Because otherwise you'd have too many commas going on for different purposes and it wouldn't make sense. In hindsight, given the ideas about the natural world circulating among British scientists in the 1800s, the theory of natural selection was an obvious next step. It may not have been a coincidence, blank, comma, that Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace arrived at the concept independently. Indeed, contrary to the popular myth of the lone genius, theirs is not the first paradigm shifting theory to emerge from multiple scholars working in parallel. It really is an English sign up. I agree. All right. Given the ideas about the natural world circulating among British scientists in the 1800s, the theory of natural selection was an obvious next step. It may not have been a coincidence. So they're saying this was a natural next step, so it's not a coincidence then that Charles Darwin, because this is leading from the first part, so it should be B. Okay, great. Let's see the next one here. Okay. What's Alex A-level question next? Where do I get one? Have you sent me one? I'll do it. While researching the topic, a student has the following notes. The Haber-Bosch process is, okay, I don't need to read these notes. I'm going to look at the question. That student wants to provide an overview of the Haber-Bosch process. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Okay, so we want an overview. B looks like a good overview. The Haber-Bosch process uses an iron catalyst along with high temperatures and pressures to manufacture ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen. Okay, so it should be B as in boy, but let's check it. Chemist Fritz Haber and Carl Bosch invented an industrial process to manufacture ammonia. That doesn't tell us anything about the actual overview. In 1910, chemists Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch invented the Haber-Bosch process, which requires higher temperatures. Nope. This is just telling us what's in it, not the actual process, so it should be B, as in boy. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Jetties, long, narrow structures that extend from the landmass into the water, are often constructed to protect coastlines from erosion. Jetties can sometimes have the opposite blink. Obstructing the natural flow of sand along the shore can lead to increased erosion in some areas. Now, this is another though question. To protect coastlines from erosion, have the opposite effect. Though. Okay, so obstructing the natural flow of sand along the shore can lead to an increased erosion in some areas. So that's going to be an independent clause. The first part, jetties can sometimes have the opposite effect, is also an independent clause. So we want something to separate independent clauses. Our only options are with semicolons. So we have another one with a though situation. And again, like we said, the though comes in the first part of the switch. So it should be A. If you post the paper, if you post a link in the chat, then I'll go to it. I don't know how to look it up just from the name, though. I haven't done the A levels. Generations of mystery and horror have been influenced by the dark Gothic stories of celebrated American author Edgar Allan Poe. So it's just writers. That's the whole subject have. You don't want anything to separate it, so it's going to be A. Let's see. Oh, you did? Let me see. I don't see a link. Oh, yeah, possibly. I think it is blocked. All right. I'll keep going with this, though. So the student wants to describe the distinctive style of Hauser's sculptures. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information? So I'm not going to look at this, the answer choices. I'm just going to do the question itself. Or the answer choices themselves, not the notes first. Why abstract modest forms to depict Native American figures. Many other artists have been influenced by the style of Hauser's sculptures. The scriptures is well known. So see, this is just telling us his distinctive in A, but B actually tells us how it's descriptive. So it should be B. Featured, he had depicted this matter using abstract things. So it should be that one. Why no? What happened? All right, I'll check this one. The student wants to emphasize Wu's most well-known achievement. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? A. Annie Wu, who has won multiple national flute competitions, has also combined flute playing and beatboxing. That doesn't really emphasize it, but we'll see. Among her many achievements, prominent American flutist, graduate from the New England Conservatory, and has won multiple national flute competitions. Annie Wu is best known for her 2011 YouTube video performance of 3 beats for beatbox flute that has been viewed over 2 million times. It should be that one because that's emphasizing her most well-known achievement. And D, composer Greg Patillo's original work combines flute playing and beatboxing. So it should be C. All right, everyone. I'm going to be checking out in about 5 minutes. I got to go tutor live in person. The student wants to introduce Samuel 7 in his novel, The Lonely Londoners, to a new audience. Okay, so to introduce it, Samuel 7 wrote the novel Moses Ascending, and he wrote The Lonely Londoners. That doesn't introduce Lonely Londoners. That just names it, so it's probably not that. Okay, some of the characters who appear in Samuel Sullivan's Moses Landing also appear in The Lonely Londoners, not that. The Lonely Londoners is a great novel, by the way. I've read it a couple times. I read it in college. I would recommend it. The Lonely Londoners, a celebrated novel that was published in 1956, depicts post-World War Caribbean migration from the perspective of a Trinidadian author. Okay. Published one of his most celebrated novels, which is group who emigrate from the Caribbean to. So they want to introduce both Samuel Selvin and the novel. C doesn't introduce Selvin, it just introduces the novel, so it should be A. They don't really lie about the notes. They just have to make sure the answer is giving you what the person's asking for. Great. Okay. A study showed that a solar park caused nearby land to cool, though the ecological impact of this temperature decrease isn't yet known. Before the park's construction, the surface temperature 30 meters outside of the park was 0.1 degrees cooler than that of a control area after construction. The temperature 30 meters outside the boundary was 1.7 degrees cooler than that of the control area. So we have two independent clauses, right? We have the temperature 30 meters outside the park was 1.7 degrees cooler and before. So it should be a period and after. All right, sleep well. Yes, come back to me and you can become a tutor. Following the American Revolutionary War, North American foodways underwent a radical transformation, fueled in large part by spiking consumer demand for certain grains. The cultivation, trade, and transportation of maize and wheat blank reconfigured the continent's existing regional foodways into a globally oriented food system. So this one is going to be all about transitions. So if in particular, alternatively, by comparison, and second of all. Second of all is just adding on. In particular is focusing in. Alternatively is giving you a variation. And by comparison is comparing. A radical transformation fueled in large part by spiking consumer demands for certain grains. The cultivation, trade, and transportation fueled in large part by second of all, let's see what happens here. Reconfigured. Let's see what happens. Oh, I got it wrong. In particular, this is a tricky one. All right, there's 5 people. Oh, there's 4 people left. I'm going to stop the video when there's less than 4 people left watching. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The student wants to specify the reason the Pleiades appearance changed. Which choice most effectively uses information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Again, I read the answer choices first, not the notes. A. Ancient Native American and Australian Aboriginal cultures describe the Pleiades, which was referred to in Greek mythology as the Seven Sisters, as having 7 stars. B. Although once referred to as the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades appear to only have 6 stars today. C. In the time since ancient cultures described the Pleiades as having 7 stars, 2 of the clusters appear to have moved so close together that they now appear as one. Oh, yes, you got A, right? That's right. You got it before me. Well, that was for the last one. The Pleiades has 7 stars, but 2 are so close together they appear to be a single star. Okay, it's because 2 of the stars have moved so close together. So it should be D. Or C, actually. 2 of the cluster stars have moved. C, that explains the reason. Okay, great. All right. Devesh, I wish you joined us earlier. I'm going to head out now. I have to go tutor But it's been great, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. You can, if you just joined, you can go back and look at the beginning and get more. But I'm going to be doing another session tomorrow. I'm about to leave, so it should be uploaded soon, and you can study it all later. I hope you enjoyed it all, everyone. This has been great. Tomorrow, I'm going to do another study session. Hopefully, I can do it for longer than today. I'll start it early in the day for anyone to do it. Honestly, you shouldn't study tomorrow, but I know some people out there are going to study. So I'll be there for support. I'll talk to y'all soon, and leave any questions you have in the comments in this video or any other videos. If you have time in your life, check out Tree of Life. I love it. It's a great film.